Especially a part of the documentary called The Choices that he produced and why Karamoja specifically, and how climate change is rewriting women's reproductive choices in Karamoja sub-region. So it's a pleasure having you with us, Charles, this morning.
Well, thank you so much, Edrine, and it's indeed a big pleasure to be here, to be hosted on the waves of Family TV. First, I want to thank God, and also want to thank the management of Family TV and the leadership there is. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here.
Okay. So starting straight away from what we've just talked about, we want to know about choices.
The first choices.
The first choices, and why you chose Karamoja among all the regions, and the main gist of this, relating climate change to sexual reproductive health.
Wow. Thank you so much, Edrine. To be honest with you, for starters, I don't know what comes into your mind when you hear the word climate change. You could be learned to define it climate change. But if you walked on the street and asked a couple of people, what is climate change? Or what do you mean by climate change? Many people will not define that.
People will easily tell you,
maybe
when it rains and maybe
we get the floods.
Exactly.
Or maybe the heat comes too much and we face a drought. But the true definition of climate change is when you step on the ground and look at the people who are affected by these effects of climate change. And I'm trying to relate why Karamoja.
Yeah.
Karamoja is a region that has been, when you speak of climate change, of global warming, is what that hits you first. One, they're affected by severe drought. It's a very beautiful land. I went there. These are very beautiful people, but most of them are highly affected by these effects of climate change. To the point that you'll find a family which has a daughter who goes to school. When the dry season comes, their crops dry. And to be honest with you, they're left with nothing to eat. And it's in black and white. The granaries dry out. There's no food at home. The father looks at a little girl who is going to school and is like, there's someone who can give me goats to sell. There's someone who can give me a number of cows to sell and get some money so that the rest of the people in the family can stay alive. These things are documented, are happening. They are real. I spoke to the gentleman. He said, look, there's no food. I have to feed her, but she's going to school. Whenever she comes back home, there's nothing to give her. What do I do? There's somebody who's giving me cows. So if there's no one to talk about these things, and we only talk about climate change, so I'm trying to relate this, what we call climate change, and trying to humanize it to the local person to understand that, hey, this is what has led you here. That's why I went to Karamoja.
So, reaching Karamoja, when that documentary is starting, of course we see a family welcoming a newborn baby after a daughter had been given away. And of course, why the first choices? And because it shows that how environmental change is rewriting the reproductive choices of
the little
girls in Karamoja, and I think that is where the basic and the basic of this conversation is having been there and having observed what you might share with us some of the observations, and we shall talk about what needs to be done to address the challenges.
Well, when you talk about the first choices, I captured a couple of first choices, inevitable choices.
Okay.
One, I've just told you one. The father inevitably has no choice but send off the little girl who is going to school into forced marriage so that the rest of the people in the family can have something to eat. The other first choice is you will find this girl has gotten pregnant and she cannot continue with school. So the number
The
of
circumstances
school-
have forced her
conceive. To conceive. And then she cannot proceed with school. So I went to a school and I looked at the notes board. When you go from P1, primary 1 to P7, you can see primary 1, they're about 100. When you go to P2, maybe 70 something. When you go to P5, they're about 50. When you go to P7, they're 9. So the number keeps on going down, meaning they're dropping out every day. And these are inevitable choices because they have no food. And this is all triggered by climate change. And you find those who conceive, they've got to walk about 10 kilometers for them to access antenatal care. Under the scorching heat. And when you ask her, what happened to your husband? He said, he's there, but he has gone to burn charcoal. And you're like, oh, this is a real cycle happening. So the husband has gone to burn charcoal. The charcoal that the husband is burning is bringing the scorching heat, which this young lady who is walking to attend to antenatal care is subjected to. So it's a cycle happening. So these are forced choices that I talked about. And I'm glad there are a couple of people who are trying to make a difference. I went to a school called Kangole Girls Secondary School. And that's a school that has produced the current Vice President, Honorable Jessica Lupo. I went there and I was so mesmerized. Despite all the challenges that are happening in Karamoja sub-region, there are people, there are schools, there are people who are thinking. They subject their mind to thinking and they're like, oh, this is affecting us, we've got to make a difference. We have got to provide a solution. That school is one of them. I spoke to the girls, they are so eloquent, they are aware of the challenges happening in their community, they are so saddened to see their fellow girls who should have continued with school, but they are carrying babies, inevitably, painfully.
Okay.
It's happening in Karamoja. I sat down with a group of...
And we sometimes tend to cover our eyes and ears over this.
That's true. You just walk on the street of Kampala. Ask somebody, what do you know about climate change? Honestly speaking. We don't care. And you know why? Because human beings, we are known for protecting what? We love.
Yeah.
If you don't love something, why would you protect it? So we don't protect Mother Nature because we don't see value in it. But there are people, schools like Kangole Girls Secondary School, which knows that there's a value in this land, so we ought to protect it.
Okay. Talking about still these, having realized, having gone through all these, what do you think needs to be done? Because, to be sincere, there was a time, I think sometime last year and the other year, when Karamoja had become a really a thing, especially there was a time when people were starving and people were dying because of the climate change, and people were unable to get food. Of course, we saw a number of people coming up to support, but even in supporting, including the government, what they were doing was to give them food, not addressing the problems. So it was a short-term intervention. But what needs to be done as a long-term intervention to see that there is sustainability?
Well, I think what needs to be done is if you're to change anything in this world today, not only in Uganda, but globally, if you're to change anything, innovation is the way to go.
Okay.
We have got to be very innovative if we are to deal with the issues. Let me say Karamoja. Let me borrow what happened in the Bible. When you look at the parables that Jesus performed, he never repeated any parable.
True.
Let's give the example of the blind. When he healed the blind, one, he just he dipped his hand in mud, spat on it, and then touched the eye, and the guy saw. Yeah. Then another one, he just blew in his eyes, and he saw. The other one, he told him, "You go wash yourself 7 times in the river, and you will see." And then the guy saw. Meaning, in every generation, there should be different solutions to cater for that problem. So in this current problem in this generation, what is happening in Karamoja, innovation is the way to go. One, if you have a talent, for instance, I'm a journalist. What innovative ways can I do to make sure that I am dealing with climate change? One, humanize the stories that you're doing. Bring in the human element in every story that you are doing. And this is what we are doing at Athari Media Support Africa. We tell the climate change, speaking to the real person that is affected by climate change. When you speak to 100 people in Karamoja, community people, local people in Karamoja, if you tell them about climate change, that is a seed of a solution that you have planted in that person. If that person gives birth to their children, they will not tell their children to do what their parents did. Yeah. So that is what needs to be done in Karamoja. We need to create a lot of massive awareness in Karamoja so that people can get to know what is the problem happening to them and how can they deal with it. I gathered a group of young men, as you saw them in the documentary. We had a dialogue, about 20 men. And they are aware of these problems. But they're like, hey, thank you so much for telling us. So enlightenment, if you speak to them constantly, they will not go and make another girl pregnant. They will not go and put another family into the same mess. So enlightenment, speaking to them, we have got to be very, very innovative. Okay. If we are to change Karamoja.
Okay. So are you convinced that with the group that you got into contact with, at least there was a seed that was planted of climate change?
Definitely. Okay. Definitely. They told me themselves. They said, indeed, what is happening to us is charcoal burning. Those men will never go and cut a tree. I told them, actually before, some of the things we didn't document here, is I try to, I've always told friends that if we don't look at these natural resources around the ecosystem as our brothers and sisters, we will never see value in them. Let me give you an example, Edrine. If you are a father and you have children in a different woman, those children, are they not brothers and sisters to this other family?
They are.
If you are the one that created them, and if all of us, the trees, the mountains, the river, the wetlands, if we all come from one creator, the Almighty, why don't we look at them like our brothers and sisters? So I left them thinking like that when you cut a tree, you're cutting your brother. Because you all come from the same creator, the Almighty. If you build in a wetland, which you're supposed to coexist with it, you're killing your brother. If you pollute the wetland, the rivers, the lakes, if you dump their plastics, you are spoiling your brother, you're killing your sister. Because you all come from the same creator. So until we start to think like this, then we'll never see value in what the things that we are supposed to protect, the things that we are supposed to coexist. So I left them thinking like that.
Okay. So do you have any follow-up activity to find out whether the message you left is still fresh in their ears, or because it is very possible that they were excited and they felt they would do, but after realizing they don't have any, their other sources of survival are blocked, then they resort to what they used to do. They used to do exactly.
So that's why I also want to thank Akina Mama wa Africa. I wrote this proposal to them, and they funded it. So I want to thank them, and we are still in touch to make sure that we do these follow-ups, that we don't just do a story and then so what. So we need to follow them up. We need to take this documentary back on the ground and screen it and try to show them that, hey, this is you and this is what you're supposed to do. Look at that picture. Look at all those young girls All of those are below 17. These are mothers. These are young girls. That one had this is a second child. The other one is pregnant. That they walked 10 kilometers to attend to antenatal care. This is so sad. And she told me the husband went to Bani Chako.
Okay.
And you wonder, you're like, okay, until when will this end? So Edrine, until we come up, until this is not about me alone. Until we all get to start to think like that, then the seeds will start to multiply. My children will never think like the previous generation, because I'm multiplying the seed. So until we all get to think a certain way, then we shall not create a solution to the problems of climate change that are affecting all of us.
Shifting from Karamoja, looking at the entire country, because they are, and you see, especially farmers are crying. People who are still into the traditional farming methods. Of course, for those who can irrigate, at least they're a little safer. But there are those who still depend on the climate entirely. But you realize that the seasons have changed. This weekend I was somewhere in some village, and someone had planted about 10 acres of maize, and they were almost crying because of the scorching sunshine that had burnt all the maize, but saying it's because of the shift in the seasons. So what message can we carry from the lessons in Karamoja as a country to see how we can better things?
Edrine, until we start to think like how I've told you, until we start to humanize these natural resources around us, until we start to think that when I cut a tree, I am cutting my brother, because many people are ignorant to that. How did I start to think like this? Why did my language change? I was a journalist active in doing political stories, but when did my language change to say that I'm now advocating for Mother Nature? I come from Nakasongola district. It is just about 120 kilometers, 90 miles away from the capital city. Right now, it's extremely hot. Extremely hot. 4 years ago, like you said, you plant your maize, expecting the rain is going to come, then there's a shift. That's how I used to live. That's how my family used to live. That you have planted your cassava, you've planted your maize, 1 month later the crops are out of the ground, and then they are dying. And then eventually there's no food. The wells have dried. My family has had to share water with the animals. For you to access clean water, you have got to pay a jerrycan of 500 shillings. So every day I was spending 5,000. A week I was spending 50,000. So I'm like, okay, I'm struggling to survive in Kampala, but I'm also struggling to sustain the people in my village. And I'm like, who is supposed to end this? How did we even get here? When you scrutinize everything, you realize that because the people are cutting down the trees. Why should we be subjected to that kind of heat when we're just a few miles away from the capital city? You understand? Yeah. But because my people have cut down the trees, all of them, it's bare. And if no one speaks to these things, 20 years from now, it will be a desert. Extreme desert. So these are the things that pain me. That until the whole country starts to think that when I'm cutting a tree, I'm cutting my brother, I'm cutting my sister. When I pollute a wetland, I'm polluting my sister, I'm polluting my brother. Until we all get to start to think like that, then we shall be safe.
Mr. Makanga, your closing remarks as we wind up at this conversation about the forced traces.
My closing remarks, I want to say thank you so much for hosting me. And what I want to share with the people that are watching this, that let's humanize these natural resources. Let's even give them totems. Let's give them names. So that when you look at them, Nalubale, look at Lake Nalubale as your brother. Look at the wetland around you as your sister. And let's reduce on our greediness. I define greed as trying to quench thirst with salty water. The more you drink, the more thirsty you become. So there are people who want to accumulate a lot of wealth. Because of greed, they have polluted their wetland. They have spoiled these natural resources. So let's try to look at them like our brothers and sisters.
Thank you so much, Mr. Makanga, and our viewer. Wow, what a message. I think we should find more time to discuss an in-depth of especially climate change and how together we can solve especially some of the common problems. But of course, for now, we cannot go beyond this. We take a break. We shall be back with issues at hand.
Arise family.
This is Church of Uganda Family TV. Enriching lives. Regulated by the Uganda Communications Commission.